Today on Locked On Rockies, it's an off-season tradition around here to talk Mario baseball and Colorado Rockies, so we'll do that, plus so long Suter.
You are Locked On Rockies, your daily Colorado Rockies podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Rock on Rockies fans, welcome into the Locked On Rockies podcast for today, the 12th day of January in the year 2024. I'm your host of the Locked On Rockies podcast, Paul Holden, bringing you your daily Colorado Rockies talk right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, where you can find your team every day. If your team is the Colorado Rockies, guess what? You're in the right spot, because that's what we do around here is talk Rockies baseball on your favorite streaming services and on the Locked On Rockies YouTube channel, where you can be part of the show. All you got to do, just subscribe, hit that like button, or just go ahead and watch the videos. That's all you got to do for the to get your daily Rockies podcast. I'm Paul Holden, your Rockies fan extraordinaire. Been bringing you your daily Rockies talk here for over 3 seasons now, following the Rockies my entire life. Today on the show, going to do my off-season incredibly niche content here, I know, but we are comparing Rockies players to Mario Superstar baseball characters, as we've done every off-season since I've hosted. Why? I'm a really big Mario baseball fan. I want to tell you a little bit about the online Mario baseball scene. If you're out there, if you are interested in learning about playing Mario baseball online, put a little Rockies twist on it, because it's the middle of the off season, not a lot going on. But we will also discuss the big Rockies news that happened. Brent Suter will not be returning to the Rockies as he goes to the Cincinnati Reds. We'll talk about the impact on the team there coming up, all on today's episode of Locked On Rockies. But before we dive into everything today, today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your purchase. So let's set the stage here for our Mario baseball discussion. I'm talking GameCube Mario baseball, Nintendo GameCube Mario baseball. I'm not talking the one for the Wii. That's Mario Super Sluggers. Different game, plays differently, a lot of similarities, but a completely different game. And for basically since I've been doing the podcast, I have been involved with the online Mario baseball scene. It's called NetPlay. And they have figured out a way to basically set up a way for you to play Mario baseball online. And that has led to a bunch of competitions. It's called Project Rio. You can check it out at projectrio.online. But that's just some brief backstory. If you're not familiar, all of these characters go into certain categories here in Mario Superstar Baseball. They are broken up by the following. It is balance, technique, speed, and power. So I'm going to spoil it right here. Unfortunately for the Colorado Rockies, there's not a lot of characters that will match in with the power. For example, Bowser is basically the equivalent of Barry Bonds. The guy hits more home runs than anybody. He gets walked all the time. There's no true equivalent for the Rockies for someone like Bowser, because there's no one on the Rockies that would get that much WAR. If they were counting WAR in the Mushroom Kingdom, Bowser's would be really, really high. And two, there's no one that is a huge home run threat like that with Bowser. We're talking Bowser hitting a home run basically at a near 50% rate, even with people walking him and so on and so forth. He's incredibly powerful in the game. So the Rockies don't have someone like him. Unfortunately, they don't have like a Petey Piranha either. You can maybe put Petey Piranha into that Elias Diaz category. Petey Piranha is a big plant. He's got a big old head and oftentimes finds himself playing catcher. He's a power hitter with a cannon. So those two things, Elias Diaz kind of come has in handy. I would say, I guess, really, when you think about it, and for me, the more I think about it, Elias Diaz does still fit into that Petey Piranha category. Just need a little bit more power from Diaz to be on the same level as Petey. But they have some similarities, especially when it comes to their ability to cut runners out. The one thing in the most popular and competitive, depends on who you ask. I'm kind of a hater on this one. But in the most popular rule set, having a catcher with a good arm strength is incredibly important. And that is true in the real world. The Rockies benefit greatly from Elias Diaz's abilities to cut runners down. Arguably, it's probably one of the best aspects of Elias Diaz's defense, and one of the reasons why he was so effective last year. And one of the reasons why he has been someone that has been an incredibly effective catcher for the Colorado Rockies, of course, provided one of the biggest moments for the team last year, as well as the lone All-Star game representative. So you know what? I'm going to change my mind. I'm going to give Elias Diaz the Petey Piranha call. Him and Petey, they got enough similarities, because we'll try to go around the field here, and we're going to start put a full starting 9 out there, because for the pitching rotation, we're basically going to lump 2 characters in. A lot of 2 characters that a lot of people use to pitch are Diddy Kong and Dixie Kong. And these pitchers, they're not going to blow you away. They're going to be able to get their strikeouts when their stuff is good. But they're the type of pitchers in Mario Baseball where you're going to pitch to contact a little bit more. You're not getting as many strikeouts as, say, Boo. Boo's, I would say Herman Marquez can get into that Boo category with the strikeout ability, but not a lot of big flamethrowers here, especially for the Rockies. So that's why I think Diddy Kong and Dixie Kong, they're good. I think that's what a lot of people would say about some arms. You're not going to blow them away. Your Kyle Freelands, for example, I think they fit perfectly into this. You know what? They can go out there. They can give you a solid start on the bump. They're not great on the offense. You're not counting on, obviously, in today's game. The pitchers don't bat, but you know what? You're not too surprised when they're able to make an impact. The Boos, the Waluigis of the world, they're the Garrett Coles. They're the Verlander kind of level. Those are the elite. So I think the whole Rockies pitching staff kind of falls into the Diddy Dixie Kong range, and some of the Rockies pitchers a little bit below, just because they're not characters that blow you away with any type of pitch velocity or really devastating stuff, but they can induce weak contact. They can make you hit sour. They can mess with your timing. They can definitely be efficient and dominant at some point. So that's where the Rockies pitching staff kind of falls into those same characters. You can kind of be interchangeable with them. That takes us to first base. And first base is going to be an interesting one, because I got 2 characters that I want to use here that are pretty interesting for Kris Bryant and Montero. Kris Bryant is Princess Peach. And I say that because Princess Peach has a lot of abilities in Mario Baseball, but a lot of people, she's so hot and cold when it depends on the rule set you're using. It depends on your lineup. It depends on this. It depends on that. And I feel like that's kind of how the experience with the Rockies has been with Kris Bryant. The talent's there. You've seen greatness happen. Peach has had a lot of big moments in the Mario Baseball world, especially when the stars come on and in different other rule sets. But at the same time, she never breaks through. She hasn't been able to always live up to expectations for people. Some people sit there and say, man, Peach is on the rise. Peach is really good. Peach has great, can play some good defense, leader of a good, strong veteran leader, really, really good clubhouse presence, has a lot of chemistry in the game. Chemistry is a game mechanic where you get little boosts and things, little benefits from players being friendly with each other in the video game world. But I think that's where it is. They match up really well, because there's still so much potential there, but we're not always seeing it. But we know it's there. We know it exists, mixed in with that veteran leadership, mixed in with someone that's going to be, good clubhouse presence, someone that's going to be instrumental in instructing and leading your guys, just like Peach does when she's, she's friends with all the Toads. She's friends with Toadette, Toadsworth, all of them. So Peach, it has that leadership quality that I think Kris Bryant has. Just disappointing, because Peach, so many times you just see the power drops off, the contact is bad, not doing enough to live up to that Princess Peach name. Just like I would say a lot of people have the argument to be made for Kris Bryant with the Colorado Rockies. Okay, we're gonna keep. We've got our pitchers, we got our catcher, we got one of our first basemen. Let's talk Montero, because he fits in with an obscure character coming up, and then I think you're really gonna like some of the characters I have picked out for, let's say, Nolan Jones and Ezequiel Tovar. Let's talk about them coming up here in segment number 2. But before we do that, got to tell you about some of the folks that help make this show possible, and that includes Gametime. Gametime is definitely one of the things that I've really enjoyed learning about since doing the show, and something I've used now 3 times. I think I've used it to go see the All-Star game. I think I've used it to go see playoff hockey, and I used it to go see a big concert, the Postal Service, when they were in town, and super easy every time. And, you're kind of looking at the app, you're going through the app, and you can kind of see the prices, but it's super fast. It's super quick, and the deals are going on. I wasn't worried about missing out on the event. I was just waiting to find that perfect deal, and Gametime helped me out. Mixed in with the fact that you can get $20 off your first purchase when you use the code Locked On. Gametime has deals on tickets right up to the start of the event and even an hour after it starts. It's the place to find last-minute seats. Plus, they have pictures and images where you can see exactly where you're sitting. One of my favorite features. So why not go check out Gametime? If you're thinking about going something, maybe you're on the fence about a big event coming up, Gametime's got you covered. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. It works for sports. It works for the theater. It works for concerts. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDON for $20 off. That's code Locked On. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. This is the Locked On Rockies podcast for free and streaming on your favorite streaming services, bringing you your daily Colorado Rockies talk right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, where you can find your team every day. If your team is the Colorado Rockies, guess what? You're in the right spot. That's what we do around here each and every day is talk Rockies baseball. You can find us free and streaming on your favorite streaming services. You can also find us on the Locked On Rockies YouTube channel, where your subscription, your comments, your liking of the video is the easiest way to help the show grow. Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube, by the way. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Go to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube and subscribe to the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel. All right, so we're talking Mario Baseball Rockies comparisons. Why are we doing that? Because it's the middle of January and not a lot's going on, and I love Mario Baseball. Remember, there's a whole big Discord. You can find a whole bunch of information at projectrio.online. I promise it's a legit thing. I know the people that are involved. I'm involved with it. But if you want to play Mario Baseball online, you want to learn more about Mario Baseball, competitive Mario Baseball, you can see that. And hey, if you're interested in seeing a more silly side of me and more about what I do, you can find a whole bunch of videos I've done about Mario Baseball at Baltor and Buddies on YouTube. That's BALTOR and Buddies on YouTube there. So if you're looking for a little more goofy stuff, because this is a goofy podcast, it's Friday. So shout outs to all of y'all for tuning in and hanging out with us here on the pod today. I was leaving off with Montero, and Montero's an interesting one. And he gets Bowser Jr. Why? Because in our eyes, he's still a youngster. I know that we've been kind of riding the Montero carousel for a couple of years now, but he's someone that potential is there. That when you see in a couple of years, you can see him being the big bad Bowser. But he's also limited by he doesn't have the same qualities as the big Bowser. He's not as consistent as a batter, isn't able to put the ball out of the yard as much, isn't able to be as effective on offense as much. Does have the ability to be, has shown some struggles on defense as well. Bowser Jr. is what we call bobble prone. Bobbling in the game is basically an error. They bobble the ball. That's basically it. Bowser Jr. unfortunately has been someone that has committed errors in big moments. And we saw last year, unfortunately, when Montero was given one of the biggest opportunities of his baseball career as the starting third baseman for the Rockies, he wasn't ready. The impact on defense then led to the impact on offense. And just like Bowser Jr., Montero is still trying to build up that reputation as being this big power threat, being the big threat. So if Montero can be the number 4 hitter for the Rockies lineup like he wants to be, sure, he might be. He's got Bowser's strength. He's got the ability to launch baseballs like Bowser does. But right now, he's still got to learn. He's still got to grow. So he's still going to take the role of Bowser Jr. for now. Over on third base here, Ryan McMahon's an interesting one. And he has the defense of Magic Koopa, arguably one of the best defenders in all of Mario baseball, easily regarded as the best defensive third baseman in Mario Superstar Baseball. But he's also really, really good at offense and really consistent. So it's a tough comparison here. So here's where it's going to, we're going to get into the weeds of the Mario baseball stuff. Mario Baseball has a game mechanic called star swings. You basically get they're stars, and you use those stars to do special swings or special pitches. In the case of Magic Koopa, they're able to use their star swing as a line drive that probably has like an 800 batting average plus, give or take. And so, but when Magic Koopa doesn't have that star swing ability there, his offensive production drops off. He becomes a much less consistent player, especially on offense. So I think Ryan McMahon is a star swing less Magic Koopa. And I know I know that sounds crazy, but he's a player that is unreal on defense, that makes plays on defense that change and save the game. But without that consistency, without that fallback of the offense, without being able to lean on that offensive ability, it's like when you get Magic Koopa up in a situation. Definitely can still do it in terms of both home run hitting and hitting for just for bases and driving in runs. But when you don't have those star swings, the question marks start rising up about Magic Koopa's abilities to just be able to get on base. It's definitely still is a threat. Definitely, certainly capable, but can be a little bit hit or miss, a little bit wishy-washy. But the one thing we know for sure, that defense is going to be there. All right, let's go over to shortstop here. And this one's a little bit different because most players most Mario baseball players put this character in the outfield just because of his abilities and such. But I think that he fits the toolbox of Ezequiel Tovar more, and it's the cover athlete himself. Mario is Ezequiel Tovar. I believe that Ezequiel Tovar has face of the franchise potential. I think Mario is strong in all categories and excels with his sliding catch ability on defense with his surprising bat. It's a little short. He still struggles with outside pitching, just like Tovar struggles with off-speed pitching and with laying off of certain pitches on the outside. But everything is there. Everything, when you look at Tovar, he can steal bases. He's an offensive threat. He plays great defense. He's not the fastest, but he's got good enough speed. He's an incredible athlete. All of those things fall in and embody with Ezequiel Tovar. Because if Ezequiel Tovar takes the right steps in the right direction, if Ezequiel Tovar continues to grow, if Ezequiel Tovar becomes a bigger offensive threat, there's a great chance that he becomes the next young leader of this Rockies team. Rockies, I mean, we know how influential shortstop can be for the Rockies. I mean, we know how big of a deal that position has been, and the names and the personalities that have been in that position and their significance with the Rockies. So if Ezequiel Tovar is able to take the right steps in the right direction, I don't think it's that crazy to think that to have that high of hopes for him to be someone that's going to be a franchise leader, someone that's going to be a leader in the locker room, someone that's going to be someone that when people talk Rockies are going to talk Tovar. He's definitely got that potential. And you might be sitting there saying, you're like, well, what about Nolan Jones? Well, we're going to get to Nolan Jones. Nolan Jones leans more into that power category. He's a power. We give him the power. We are putting Ezequiel Tovar in the balance category because I think that fits exactly what Ezequiel Tovar is. Every area he is at least good. He is strong. He is proficient in. Certainly can get better, of course, just like Mario has his little shortcomings and such. But he has the ability, the potential is still there. And for him to be as strong in the areas that he already is, I'm already ready to call him Mario. And if you're wondering who else has gotten the Mario treatment in the past, Larry Walker, and I believe I don't know if I put Todd Helton also in the Mario category there as well. Brendan Rodgers is an interesting one at second base. And I think it's someone that again, defense is there, and that power offense. So this one's going to be kind of surprising. Brendan Rodgers is Wario. And for those that don't play Mario Baseball, you might be surprised. Wario, and if you know Wario, big fat guy, that doesn't look like the most athletic. But that's not the case in Mario Baseball. He's a great second baseman with great defensive abilities. He can put the ball over the wall. Streaky, though, just like Brendan Rodgers, I think. Just like we've seen. If he's cold, if Wario's cold, if you're not hitting with him, it's no good. But if you're locked in, the impact that he can have on your team is just like Brendan Rodgers. He can dive and make a big play on defense and then come right back into the dugout and be an immediate threat, immediate power threat, an immediate RBI scoring threat on offense. That's why Brendan Rodgers gets the Wario title. I know that might not be the most flattering one, but his in-game skills match the skills of Brendan Rodgers. So we got our infield. We got our we got to figure out our outfield. But let's go around our infield and our pitchers. We got Elias Diaz, who is Petey Piranha behind the dish. We got our two first basemen right now, and in Montero and Chris Bryant. Montero is Bowser Jr. Chris Bryant is Peach. We got Wario over there at second with our man Brendan Rodgers. We have Mario at shortstop there with Ezekiel Tovar, and we have Magikoopa, but Magikoopa without star swings on third base. So that leaves now our three outfielders, and we'll do a DH as well. We'll figure out what we're going to do, but we might slide Charlie into right field in this in our analogy here, so we have time to talk Brent Suter. Nolan Jones is Donkey Kong. Why is he Donkey Kong? Because Donkey Kong hits massive home runs and has a cannon of an arm. Now, Nolan Jones got a little more speed on Donkey Kong, but the fact of the matter is this. There's things that you know that you don't do in Mario Baseball. You don't give DK a pitch to hit, and you don't give him an opportunity to throw you out, because he will do that. He's got a cannon of an arm. He can throw from way deep, the deepest parts of the outfield. He's got his laser ability home. He can cut runs down at home with ease, just like Nolan Jones. What did we see Nolan? What is something that we probably haven't talked enough about for Nolan Jones this offseason? That arm, that cannon, that type of defense, that type of impact at Coors Field is going to be massive. And it's another tool in the tool belt of Nolan Jones that makes him the best player, arguably one of the best players in the Rockies. And that's why he also gets to be DK. DK is one of the best characters in the game. If you have Donkey Kong on your team, you have someone that's going to provide you great power, good defense with a cannon of an arm. And if that ain't Nolan Jones, then I don't know what is. Now, flipping over here to center field, we get a little bit of a mix-up. Brenton Doyle is Yoshi. He is Yoshi because the bat of Yoshi, it leaves a lot to be desired. Some love it. The star swing's good, and you can factor that in. But what is Yoshi most known for? What is Yoshi's biggest impact on the virtual diamond? Defense. Yoshi is by far the best defensive player in Mario Baseball. Yoshi is the fastest, and Yoshi's dive range makes plays that only he can. Sound familiar? Sounds like Brenton Doyle. It sounds like the Rockies have found their real-life version of Yoshi, someone that is going to go out and literally change games because of his way of, and we've already seen it, change the landscape of games, change the momentum of innings, change the momentum for the Rockies in these games. It's a no-brainer. Those ones, it goes together. He might also be Toadette. Toadette's an elite defender whose bat also suffers, but we saw enough sneaky offense at the end of the season for Brenton Doyle that he's going to get that Yoshi status. And then finally, for Charlie Blackmon, he gets Toadsworth. He's the old man of the team. He's still got plenty of power in that bat. He can still contribute in that way. You don't trust the defense whatsoever, but he can certainly play it. He can fill right field if you need it. But he's the old man. He's the guiding force on the team. He's the vet that works with Peach, with Chris Bryant, to be the vet on the team to help lead these youngsters, to help get them together. And if you don't play Mario Baseball, folks, don't be surprised when Toadsworth charges up and hits a big home run on you, because he still is one of the best hitters in the business out there. So don't be sleeping on Toadsworth, just like you can't be sleeping on Charlie Blackmon. All right, so there we go. I had to do it. It's my fun thing. I hope my Mario Baseball buddies, if they're tuning in and checking out the pod today, I hope they enjoy the comparisons there. If you don't have any idea what I'm talking about, I hope I gave them enough real world comparisons there for you to understand the similarities between these characters. And there's plenty more choices, and there's plenty more factors that we could have gone into. But man, I didn't know how fast this episode was going to go, because I want to talk a little bit about Brent Suter here as the Rockies lose out on Brent Suter to the Cincinnati Reds. We're going to do that coming up here in segment number 3. Before we do that, though, got to tell you about some of the folks that make this show possible, and that includes FanDuel. The NFL regular season has wrapped up, but Locked On has you covered. By Locked On? What do you mean Locked On? Well, promo code Locked On. FanDuel.com/Locked On has you covered for the NFL action this postseason. Why do you want to go to that? Why do you want to use the promo code Locked On? Why does that matter? Well, right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet when you go to FanDuel.com/Locked On. That's $150 in bonus bets, win or lose. You can also check out the FanDuel app, which is super easy to use, and there's a lot of different ways to bet, like same game parlays. You can even see all the bets available in the Explore tab. Or if you're like me and you love a little parlay, you can make a parlay in the Parlay Hub, or look for the most popular parlays. Lots more available at FanDuel.com/Locked On. That's FanDuel.com/Locked On for $150 in bonus bets, win or lose. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. This is the Locked On Rockies podcast, for free and streaming on your favorite streaming services and on the Locked On Rockies YouTube channel, where you can be part of the show by firing off your comments, letting me know what your thoughts are when it comes to the Colorado Rockies. Let's wind down the show here by briefly mentioning that the Rockies bullpen did get weaker. It's actually a move that I'm kind of bummed about. Brent Suter was great last year. Brent Suter was really another one of those moves where the Rockies were, hey, let's take a flyer on this guy that we're kind of surprised that their team let go. And he was great. I mean, still had some moments and still was part of the Rockies. And I know the team didn't do well, but you can't sit there and deny that Brent Suter was one of the best pieces for the Rockies bullpen last year. And it's a little bit of a bummer now in hindsight. I do want to know how much the Rockies, how close were they in on this? Were they pretty far out on discussions? Because if they were, I know hindsight's 2020, but is that one more piece you could have moved at the trade deadline? I mean, there were reports that Suter was interested in returning to the Rockies, and there were things that came out, and he now returns. He played high school ball in Cincinnati. It's a 1-year deal. Seems like it's a no-brainer and more of an interesting team, at least from the Suter side. But for the Rockies, could you not match? And if you did match and you were told no, that's fine. I am just curious that with this signing or with Suter leaving, I am just curious what was the domino that fell for Suter? Was it just looking at the team and saying, I'd rather, I got an opportunity to go help a young, exciting Reds team and be a key part there? Was it the money? Was it, what was it that the two sides eventually drifted apart? And when did that drift happen? Because it would have been nice to see the Rockies maybe try to trade Brent Suter before the trade deadline. But at that point, I mean, with the injuries and with the state of the Rockies bullpen at that point, you kind of needed to keep Suter as well, because they needed the depth. They needed the arms. Brent Suter here, 3.38 ERA in 69.1 innings pitched, 55 strikeouts, a whip of 1.29, and a 4.3 win-loss record, a WAR of 0.8. So, yeah, not knock your socks off, but certainly solid. I love a sub-4 ERA at Coors. I like the strikeout totals. I like what Suter was able to do. I really liked what the Rockies' ability there. I really like the Rockies' thought process in bringing Suter in. But yeah, well, what can you do now? The Bottom of the point is, Rockies bullpen got worse. Is there someone enough are there people in the organization enough that were confident enough that they are going to be good enough to replace him? I don't know. Bullpen, I think, is going to be really shaky for the Rockies next year, outside of a couple of the well-known names that we had. And what does this mean now for Justin Lawrence and Daniel Bard? Actually, speaking of Daniel Bard, we haven't heard much from old Daniel Bard, but I believe he's still got his he's still under his contract here for that. So let's see. As a robocaller is getting me here. Yeah, I believe he's still under contract there, but we'll see what happens with this bullpen, but might open up some spots for the Rockies to use some of their younger guys in their system as well to beef things up. So we'll see. But I'm bummed to see Brent Suter go, but it's not that surprising that it happened as well. All right, folks, that's going to do it for this episode of Locked On Rockies. Thanks for having fun with me today on this Friday episode. Make sure you're staying up to date with the pod. You can find us on the Locked On Rockies podcast on YouTube. You can also find us on your favorite streaming services. All you got to do, search Locked On Rockies. You'll be taken to where you need to go. Hey, if you do subscribe, liking the videos, all that stuff really, really does help. And for your second listen of the day, why don't you go and check out Locked On MLB, or maybe Locked On Broncos, Locked On Avalanche, Locked On Nuggets, or Locked On Buffs. Until next time, this is Paul Holden saying so long from the Locked On Rockies podcast.